Good evening from Vietnam. Good morning to you. Daniel, thank you very much for spending your morning joining our program and sharing your stories and wisdom to our global audience. And on behalf of the listeners around the world, we want to say thank you very much.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
And earlier in this conversation, we realized that your grandson came to Vietnam a year ago. But if we had this conversation before that, probably we've been able to have a cup of tea, a cup of coffee with him when he's here. So, so the next time, if any family member, any of your friends come into this country, please let us know that now they have a new friend, new family here also, please.
Thank you. That's very kind of you. Appreciate it.
Yes. And the nearest country that you've been to nearby Vietnam was Thailand. And in our culture, very close to our culture also, it's a great honor if we can have, our audience can have you to share a little bit about who you are and what you want them to know about you, Daniel. Could you please do that for us?
Yes. So, my background is in clinical psychology. I got a doctorate in that at Harvard. I worked as a science journalist for many, many years, including New York Times. And then I wrote in '95 the book Emotional Intelligence. I didn't invent the phrase. That came from Peter Salovey and his graduate student at Yale, John Mayer. Peter went on to become the president of Yale University. He just stepped down. I have actually been surprised by the interest in emotional intelligence around the world. So I've spent many, many years going to different places. I'll go to Rio de Janeiro next month to talk about emotional intelligence. People seem very interested in the concept.
Wow. So you help us to know more about emotional intelligence over the past 30 years, right? This topic has been talked a lot in many countries by many companies and also in our country. And you share about your story in less than 2 minutes of your time, and that is not fair for our audience. So this conversation is designed for us to know more about the journey that leading to what you create that. Okay, so let's travel time together. How does that sound to you?
How did I happen to write that book?
How does time travel sound to you?
Oh, time travel. Well, let's see how it goes.
Okay. Let's dance with us. Sure. Okay. When we were very small, Vivian, her first dream about what she's going to do in this world is become a singer. And for me, my first dream that I wanted to become to do in this world is become an astronaut and travel to the moon. But life did not give us any opportunity to do that, except that we had a lot of karaoke time at home, and we've been interviewed a lot of astronauts in our program also. One of them walked on the moon himself. His name is General Charlie Duke, right? So, General, when you were young, what was the first dream you had about the works that you are going to create in this world?
I don't know about when I was very young. I don't really remember so well. I think at one point I wanted to be a doctor, but I probably wanted to be a fireman before, I'm guessing, or maybe a cook. I really have no idea. But by the time I got to college, I think I wanted to be a doctor.
Oh,
yeah. But that's very fast time travel. You go at your rate. Please ask me.
Yes. So, what motivated you to become, to decide that one day you're gonna become a doctor?
I don't really know, but I remember when I took biochemistry in college, I decided this isn't for me. So I went into psychology, and that's where I did my graduate work.
Wow. And when we did this conversation, we did a lot of research about that. And one of the the podcast came up was talking about your uncle, who was a father of the nuclear reactor, and he's been the inspiration source in your life. Tell us a little bit about how that it related to the journey that you take the course onto psychology, clinical psychology or science.
Well, my uncle, Alvin Weinberg, was the director of the Oak Ridge National Laboratory. He had several thousand PhD scientists working for him, and they developed nuclear medicine. So if you know anyone who ever got radiation treatment for cancer, that was one of the things that came out of that lab. He was one of the scientists who, as a graduate student, was recruited for what they called the Manhattan Project, and then afterward renounced working on weapons and was trying to find peaceful applications. One of the things he designed is a thorium-based reactor, which is different than a uranium-based nuclear reactor. The good thing about thorium is its half-life is much shorter, so there's less problem with storing waste, but also it can't be made into a weapon, which is another advantage from his point of view. So far, I think the only people who have actually built one are the Chinese. I heard recently, but I think it's good. Anyway, he inspired me definitely to look at science and to regard it as very important. So when I went into psychology, I saw it as a scientific field, but it also had clinical applications, of course, working with your mind, working with the things that make you very unhappy, working with patterns that you need to change. And to fast forward in time travel, my wife, Goleman, has done a lot of work bringing mindfulness, which is something that I associate with Vietnam. I don't know if it's true, but mindfulness with therapy. Her book, Emotional Alchemy, was the first to integrate those two together. I've been very, very interested. We still are doing this work together. I have to turn my phone off. So I hope you edit this. So so anyway, you asked me your next time travel question.
Yes, we still at the time for when you're at university time, and you share with a lot of people about the first year as college when you fail at college times. How did that impact on your journey of meditations or research?
Well, my first year of college was in Massachusetts, and I grew up in California. California, more like Vietnam. It's very warm a lot of the time, very sunny. It doesn't ever snow. And when I got to college, which was in Massachusetts, I hated it. I hated the winter. I hated the fact that at the time it was all men. There were no women. I thought that was a terrible idea. And I ended up going my junior year to the University of California at Berkeley. And that's where I got interested in meditation, because at the time in the San Francisco Bay Area, there were many, many ways to learn to meditate. And that was when I first started. Then when I went to Harvard for graduate school, I got a traveling fellowship, which brought me to India and Sri Lanka for about 2 years. And I got very interested in Buddhism as a psychological theory, because it's been around for 2,500 years, but the model of the mind seemed very robust. And so I looked at that more deeply. And I did my first book about meditation. I was interested in all kinds. I know that Vietnam is, 50-50 Christian Buddhist. Is that right?
There's a lot more Buddhist in this country. Buddhist and Confucians, yes.
I see. Okay.
Yes.
So I studied a 5th century meditation manual from Buddhism, and I found it really made sense even now, 1,500 years later. So I did a lot of early writing about that. This is before I wrote Emotional Intelligence.
Mm.
I got very, very interested. I spent a lot of time in Bodh Gaya, where Buddha was enlightened, and I found it very inspiring and quite fascinating from a psychological point of view.
From meditation onto emotional intelligence, how did that bridge connect?
I don't think there was a conscious connection. I wrote Emotional Intelligence after I'd been at the New York Times writing about psychological research for many years. And I think when I look at it now, I see that it must have been informed in some way. For example, the root of emotional intelligence is self-awareness, and meditation or mindfulness is self-awareness, training in self-awareness. The second part of emotional intelligence is managing your emotions, emotional self-regulation, and every religion has some set of ethics and ethical code that people will hold themselves to. In Buddhism, it's the Vinaya for monks, which is a set of rules. And then for lay people, there's a smaller set. The third part is empathy, or knowing what the other person is feeling. And I think that's the basis of compassion, which is also a tenet of every major world religion. And when you put that all together to handle relationships effectively, relationship management, which is the fourth part of emotional intelligence, I think that maps very well on skillful interactions in a religious sense too.
Beautiful, beautiful. During your years as a journalist, right? And you spend a lot of time on learning about human behavior, about brain science and stuff like that, you know, and it took years for you to write the book, Emotional Intelligence. So there must be somewhere along the way that you feel that the IQ, the IQ is not the only parameter to measure our success. So in what story that makes you feel like, okay, IQ is not enough and something else must be a topic of research?
I went to colleges that were very high IQ on average. My undergraduate work was at Amherst College, which at the time was the hardest college in America to get into. And then I went to Harvard. And I looked around and I saw that there was a difference amongst people, whether they all had a very high IQ, but some people were much more effective, much more empathic, much more attuned to other people. And I think I felt that was an important ability or capability that mattered as much, and in some contexts, more than IQ.
Wow. Seems like Vivian, you want to have a question, Vivian?
Yeah, Daniel, it seemed like to me when we were born, pretty much it's a blank page and innocent. And along the way that we're growing up, it's become a challenge for us to be self-awareness. I guess it's going to link to a lot of that emotional intelligence you're talking and also the religious kind of aspect into it. So in your opinion, what make us lose all that, blank page when we were first born? Yeah.
Well, we're not exactly a blank page. We have our genetics, and there's actually a large correlation between your parents' IQ and your IQ. So some of that is genetically determined. Also, it's determined by what educational opportunities you're given in life. Whether you read a lot or not at all, go to school or don't go to school, go to a good school or not so good school. All of that matters. IQ actually seems to be pretty much set in childhood and doesn't change that much through your life. Emotional intelligence, on the other hand, is learned and learnable at any point. I just put an emotional intelligence program online so people can enroll in it themselves and do it at their own pace, because I believe anyone can get better. And do you have show notes?
Yes, yeah, we have 3.
Yeah, maybe you can put that in show notes for people who might listen who want to help improve their emotional intelligence and do it in a self-paced way, do it on their own time and so on.
Thanks, folks.
Yeah.
This year marks the 30 years anniversary of your book. And it took you about 10 years, 1 decade to do that research. And we wanna find where is that resilience coming from you, because a lot of people will drop the ball, drop the research when it's hard and it takes so long. For you, it takes like years before you got that book and research completed. Where did that source of strength coming from?
Well, I think I was always motivated, and motivation is very important in persistence, in keeping working toward your goal, whatever that goal might be. And I was able to use some of the things I had done while I was a journalist at the New York Times in the book in a different way, but still I was doing double work, both for the New York Times and for the book. And the book was originally just about emotions in the brain. I saw an article in 1990 by Salovey and Mayer called Emotional Intelligence. It was the first time I had heard the term. And I thought, oh, that would be a good name for the book. So I used it for the book. I didn't know the book would become so well known around the world. And the concept of emotional intelligence has become spread everywhere. It got a lot of pickup in two areas, in education and in business. And in business, it makes sense because people who are more emotionally intelligent in leadership position, for example, do better. They get more motivation out of the people who work for them. People are more loyal to them. People are more engaged when they do their work. And the same is true if you have emotional intelligence. You enjoy what you're doing, you connect with people more, you feel good while you're working. And I think the good news is that this can be improved at any point in life if you're motivated to do it.
Wow. By the time that you did the research on emotional intelligence, the term IQ has been widely applied for at least 60, 70 years. So it's been in half of the century there. So, and then you working on the project that might be maybe resisted and pushed back by many people out there, right? So at what stage of that research did you know that, okay, the EQ, emotional intelligence, is about to, to show something, some light at the end of the tunnel?
Yeah. Well, as a psychologist, I'm very interested in data. And I found many studies that suggested that IQ is in some ways not as important as emotional intelligence in how well people conduct themselves, how well they relate to other people. And for leadership, for example, it's absolutely important how you relate to other people. So when I first wrote the book, there was only suggestive data. Emotional intelligence was a brand new concept. IQ had been around, as you said, for 70 years or more. So I was really proposing in the book Emotional Intelligence. I've written 4 or 5 books since then about emotional intelligence that use the newer findings. I just finished a book with a colleague of mine, Carrie Chernus, which looks at all the data up to a year or two ago on emotional intelligence. And it's very strong, very convincing. And we put that together. The book is called Optimal. I don't know if it's in Vietnamese. It came out in English a year or two ago. But what that book does is take all of the data on emotional intelligence up to now, including some very convincing what are called meta-analyses, where you put together findings from many different studies and make a conclusion. That's why I say, for example, leaders who have emotional intelligence have people who work for them are more engaged. They like them more. They feel good when they come to work. In other words, they're in an optimal state for high performance. And the data on emotional intelligence and high performance is very strong. There's a book coming out in a couple of weeks from Harvard by Vanessa Druskat, a colleague of mine, on how emotional intelligence matters in teams, how well teams get along, how they can acknowledge what their problems are, how they can anticipate and fix those problems, how well they do in whatever metric makes sense for them. She finds the higher the collective emotional intelligence, the better the performance.
Wow. So that book is coming in about a few weeks, you said?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. All right. So when you first on your first book, is talk about the 5 core competencies, right? And along the way, you fine-tune it into 4 broad. How do we call her? 4. I wrote it here, the 4 domains for that. So, what made you move in from the 5 core competency into the 4? And
yeah, so once we had the emotional intelligence model, I went back to my psychology background, and I worked with an old colleague of mine from Harvard, Richard Boyatzis, who was an expert on competencies. And what we looked at are the competencies or abilities that make you superior performer at work based on emotional intelligence, on self-awareness, on how you manage yourself. For example, being able, as you said, to motivate yourself depends on self-regulation, how you manage your emotions. Being able to get over being upset and keep your mind on your work, which is really important these days, is based on how you manage your emotions. Being able to stay optimistic, to see the upside of what may happen rather than get bogged down by how things may be going wrong right now. It depends on how you manage your emotions. So these are specific competencies, and the program that I just launched online uses these competencies, these emotional intelligence competencies, because much research has shown these are the abilities that distinguish mediocre performers from star performers in the workplace.
So back then, you had so many people in your network, so many scholars, so many amazing researchers in your network. Why did you put Professor Richard?
Why did I'm sorry?
Why did you decide to take part of that research together with Professor Richard?
Oh, Richard Boyatzis was an old colleague at Harvard who continued to do this research at Case Western Reserve University. He taught in the Weatherhead School of Management there. And so he continued to show that these competencies matter and make a difference in the workplace. So I went back to him as an expert on competency, and we combined it with the emotional intelligence model to look at today these are called soft skills. Are you able to empathize? Do people who work for you feel you care about them? Can you get along with other people in the workplace? Can you manage disagreements? Can you inspire people who work for you? Can you keep them motivated? All of these abilities have to do with specific competencies, and the good thing about them is they can be learned. That you don't have to say, well, I'm not so good at this, but you can get better at it.
Wow. I owe Professor Richard Boyatzis for a huge appreciation, because he's the one who connected the two of us, and he's the one who introduced me to you, so that we're having this conversation today, Daniel. So related to the last question that I asked you is, with the emotional intelligence being in the industry for 30 years, right? The question that we have for you is: has there been any insights or anything that you see is is misunderstood or? Yes.
Yeah. So many people have a misconception that emotional intelligence just means being nice. It doesn't necessarily mean being nice. You might be very assertive about disagreeing with someone, and because you're confident, because you want the other person to understand your position. So that's a common misconception. Another is that AI is going to make everything outdated, but actually I think the coming of AI means that emotional intelligence will become more important, because AI doesn't have human warmth. It doesn't have the human ability to read nuances. AI can't be a great team member. It can't be a great leader. And those abilities, doing well in those positions, all require emotional intelligence. So I think, paradoxically, as AI becomes more common, emotional intelligence will matter more in promotion, in effectiveness of people, and in personal effectiveness too, your own performance.
Mm. And you said that emotional intelligence can be learned, and it's best for our audience to hear directly from you. How can we grow our, EQ?
Yes. Well, it can be learned, but I don't think you should try on your own. I don't think you can get it from books. So, for example, we have this systematic program that I just put online for people. That's available to anyone. There are many programs, and some work and some don't. We've tried to make ours fit best practices so that it's more effective for people. And we've had very good feedback from people who've gone through it.
Wow. How has finding and writing the book on emotional intelligence changed your life, Daniel?
Well, when I wrote the book, I was a science journalist at the New York Times, but there was so much demand for me to go around the world speaking about emotional intelligence. I had to stop doing that. And pretty much since then, I've just been on the speaker circuit and talking at companies and so on.
Yeah. And you've been traveling around the world, meeting with a lot of amazing people, right? If there were one person or one story you want to share with our audience, tell us about that story, please.
Of one person that I met?
Yeah, that you really love to share on your journey.
Well, it's a little difficult to answer your question because my encounters are confidential. So I can't really name a name. I've met many CEOs. I often have been asked to come into a company to talk about emotional intelligence and its benefits as that company is trying to actually start a program making the culture more friendly to emotional intelligence. But I don't know, unfortunately in this situation, I have to agree not to say what company or what people. So I can't really answer your question. I could answer it in school.
Yes.
I do a lot of consulting, or have done, in education, because lots of schools have brought in what they call social emotional learning, which is emotional intelligence for kids. So I went to one school that a woman named Linda Lantieri had designed a program for. It was a class of 7-year-olds, and half of the kids had a diagnosis of attention deficit disorder, which means hyperactivity. They can't focus very well. And when I came to the class, I was very surprised because the kids seemed very focused. And I asked the teacher what's going on, and she said, well, watch this. And then they did something they do every day. Each kid went to their cubby and they got their favorite little stuffed animal. They found a place to lie down on the floor. They put it on their belly, and they watched it rise on the in-breath and fall on the out-breath, and rise on the in-breath and fall on the out-breath. Basically, they're doing a mindfulness meditation exercise. And this made them very calm and very focused. And it's the kind of thing that benefits kids I'm a big advocate of teaching such things to kids developmentally. You teach it differently at age 7 than age 10 and age 15. But it's basically the same lesson for the brain, which is how to calm down, how to stay focused, how to relate to other people, how to be present.
Wow. And what age is the best for us to start teaching children about EQ?
I think parents are the first coach in EQ. It just naturally, kids like to be like mom and dad. So you need to show them how you manage your upset, how you tune in, how you empathize. That's the first lesson. So I say you can start when you pick up a baby who's crying and soothe her and help her calm down. You're actually teaching her how to regulate your own emotion. So I'd say it starts from, I don't know about day 1, but year 1 for sure.
Wow. So you mentioned about parents, right? We really admire when we read about what you said earlier. If you're not sure if you still remember that, what you said that all the awards, all the rewards, or celebration parties not important as it is for you to spend time with your family and with your children and your grandchildren on the beach, right? So that is a very wise piece of wisdom. Tell us, how did you come up to that piece of wisdom?
Well, it seems to me that a lot of learning and emotional intelligence is what's called osmotic. It's because you're a model and people absorb it. Kids absorb it. Kids look to adults for how to behave. So you're teaching lessons for better or for worse in emotional intelligence all the time you're with a kid. And the more time you spend together, the better, if the lessons are good ones.
Wow. I have 2 last questions for these conversations. Okay.
Yes. Okay.
And one question is about thinking, because Vivian and I, we've been on the quest to help people to improve their ability to think also, because we see there's so many noises these days that are affecting our ability to think. So the question for you, Daniel, is how have you been growing your ability to think?
I try to resist my phone. Our phones are our best friends and our worst enemies for thinking. The reason being, there's a direct relationship between how emotionally unregulated you are and poor thinking, or being calm and clear, managing your upsetting emotions. That helps you think the most clearly. And our phones have all of our distractions. Everything that you like to see, everything you like to hear is there in your phone in an instant. So being able to resist, to not pick up that phone and look at all the things that distract you, but keep your mind and your focus on the task at hand, I think that's the most important thing for thinking well.
Wow. Wow. That is a very important message that many people at many different ages need to hear also. Thank you very much. The last question, let's travel time one last time. Okay? And travel to the past. So now you, me, Vivian had a chance to travel to the past to meet anyone in your life. Who would that person that you would want to meet?
Oh, you mean who would I like to see again?
Who, because if you can identify a person, then my question would come after that.
Oh, maybe my mom.
Okay, so Faye, right? Is that her name, Faye? Yes.
Her name is Faye.
All right. Before we ask about that question, why is it that you picked Faye first?
Why?
Why did you decide to pick her, but not your father or not your uncle? Why?
It's a very close call. I don't know the answer to your question.
All righty. So thank you for sharing that first. Okay, so let's assuming that the 3 of us are gonna travel time. The 3 of us are gonna be in the same room and having a conversation with your mother, and you're gonna tell her about your life, the works you do. You're gonna tell her about that. What is that you are going to tell her?
Oh, well, She was a great cheerleader for my, academic education. She was a professor herself. Both my parents were college teachers. And she was really happy and enthusiastic that I was writing books, that I got a PhD. And so I would, and she lived to 99, by the way. So I knew her most of my life, and all my life. And I think she always was interested in the newest idea. So that's what we would talk about.
And what would she say to you if she knows that you inventing a field that really have a lot of people at a lot of ages, from young kids to leaders who lead in billion-dollar business to transform?
She would say, "Oh, good work."
Daniel, thanks a lot for the opportunity for us to have you on our program. The honor is really, I was overwhelming with that honor, and thank you so much for sharing your story, sharing the insights in this conversation, and helping the world to become a better place with your works.
Okay, thank you very much. It's been a real pleasure. Good night in Vietnam, and it looks like a nice day here.
Have a wonderful day there. Say hello to your family for us, please. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you, Daniel.
My pleasure. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.